All right. Hi, guys. Um, First off, I guess, welcome back from break. I hope you guys had a halfway decent break. My break was tumultuous, to say the least. My wife brought COVID home right around Thanksgiving, and it kicked my butt for about 3 weeks, along with my wife's butt. And I'm only really, it wasn't until about Christmas that I started feeling normal again. And so, my run up to the Christmas season was kind of disrupted, which is sad. Then we traveled down to my dad's house over Christmas break once everyone was feeling better. And our first day there, my daughter broke her arm because she got a hoverboard for Christmas, and she promptly fell off of it and broke her arm. So we got to take her to the emergency room and then come back home. So still waiting on the bill from that one. And then I spent the rest of break just kind of not doing much of anything, watching some Star Trek, reading some books, painting, just kind of trying to woo-saw a little bit. I took down all my Christmas decorations, did some chores around here, hung out with my dogs and my family. And that's kind of about it. Um, I hope your break was at least a little bit better than mine. I hope it wasn't quite as traumatic or disastrous. Um, before I get into talking about before I get into talking about third 9 weeks and kind of our roadmap, which by the way, that's all I'm doing today. All I'm doing for our first session is just giving you a roadmap of what's coming and kind of what to expect this 9 weeks. You'll have a discussion post, and that's going to be it for this first class session. I'm not trying to overburden you because we are going to hop it back into it with both feet next week. But before we get into all that, um, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about today. I've gotten to know some of you very well um, through our time together, and you kind of know who I am as a person. And some of you, I'm pretty much a stranger to, um, given the nature of this reality that we find ourselves in. But I do want to take just a moment and say that right now it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel anxious or nervous or disquieted about the state of things, um, both personally and kind of in a society at large way. Um, I find myself feeling very anxious and a little bit upset. I've had to have some rough conversations with my daughters and with my wife. Um, most of you know at this point, that my wife is an African American. My daughters are mixed, and that has led to some very hard conversations having to be had with my daughters over the last year, especially after the unrest of the summer. Um, and then it led to some hard conversations whenever, today my daughter was watching the news. She's 12 and she saw somebody who had stormed the Capitol building uh, in a violent attempt to disrupt our government, carrying around the Confederate flag. Um, and so, that it's okay to be upset about things like that. But I want to tell you that the root of what we're seeing, the root of the kind of degradation that we are experiencing in our society is I think it's two things. One is it's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of trying to understand others and trying to feel what they feel. And what I mean is this, the people who were upset over Colin Kaepernick kneeling, or the Black Lives Matter protest. Usually that comes out of a place of limited personal experience with people of color. It comes out of a place of not taking the time to try and understand the palpable fear of being a small minority in a country. African Americans only make up about 13% of the nation at large, and they face violence overwhelmingly, disproportionately from police officers. And the people that are upset typically have not taken the time to pause and try and understand what that must be like, or to try and consider those feelings. Likewise, it's easy to look at places like Michigan or Detroit or the rural South and just kind of holistically judge these people as uneducated or uninformed or whatever, and not stop to listen to their very real concerns about their jobs disappearing, their communities falling apart, their infrastructure collapsing, and the kind of hopelessness that exists in some of these kinds of communities. Um, and I think that people from the cities, it's easy to write these whole swatches of the country off. They call it flyover country. Um, and what we do is we spend all of our time in our social media bubbles or in our friend group or whatever, listening to people that think like we do, engaging with people that think like we do. And when we do run across somebody that we don't agree with, we typically, it is combative. It is from a sense of argumentation. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. My wife tells me all the time, I can tell when you're arguing on the internet because you type really hard. Um, we come across people and 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 when we agree with them, especially online, it becomes so easy to just become confrontational. Go to confrontation as the first step. Um, if there's one thing that I would love for your generation to be able to rectify, um, it is our seeming inability to listen, to slow down and hear each other, to to reach for the common humanity in all of us. You can have major ideological differences with other people. I am the political outsider in my family. I will not share with you what my personal politics are because I don't believe in that. I believe that um, none of this is about me. It's about you guys. So I won't share what my personal politics are. But I'm the political outsider in my family by a pretty wide stretch. Doesn't mean that I don't love my family. Doesn't mean that I think they're horrible, evil people. I think that sometimes they are misinformed or sometimes they are misguided, but I still care deeply for them, and I think that they are trying to be the best people that they can be, and the only way that we can ever find a way to be with each other and find our common ground is by listening. It's by seeking first to understand. A guy named Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I think most of it's crap. But he he's got a couple of good ones in there. One is sharpening the saw, which is about continually learning and always trying to stay sharp and be better. And then the other one is anytime that you're seeking communication, anytime that you're engaging with other people, the first thing that you should try and do is understand them. Because if you can understand them, then you can build off of that, and all these other things kind of take care of themselves. Um, we seem to have forgotten that as a people. We seem to have forgotten that as a nation. Um, and that's a very sad thing, and I'm very disheartened by it. But I have hope because I teach you guys, and I have spent time in the classroom with some amazing individuals, some unbelievably thoughtful, kind, caring, compassionate people that I believe can create a great world for my daughters. You guys are creating the world that my daughters will live in. I'll be old, useless, or dead. You guys will make that world for them. Um, and I believe in your capacity to do better. I believe in your capacity to be better. I believe in your capacity to be great. So please do that. I'm sorry we're handing you such a mess. I'm doing my best. I know other people are doing their best, but it is a mess. I'm not going to lie to you. Um, I'm sorry. That's all I got. So, with all that, let's talk about the third 9 weeks. So, all right, English 3 to all two of you that actually are in this course and are actually doing anything or submitting any work. So we're going to start off the third 9 weeks working with a book called Persepolis. It's a graphic novel. It is it's kind of like a comic book, but not really, because there are no superheroes or anything like that. It's actually an autobiography of a girl who grew up in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. But it's a book that students typically love. So we're going to start that. So we're going to start the 9 weeks with that, and that's probably going to take us about half the 9 weeks, if I had to guess, to do it with the kind of fidelity that I want. It's a book that there's a lot to kind of go into culturally and Yeah, just culturally, symbolically, there's just a lot going on, and it creates a really interesting juxtaposition with Ocean at the End of the Lane, because Ocean at the End of the Lane is about this Caucasian boy growing up in rural England, and then Persepolis is about a young girl growing up in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. So it's about part of it is about the same time period in these children's lives, but then about also how they are different. And where Persepolis is nice, we actually get to follow her a little bit longer too. We get to see her kind of grow up and grow up through this thing. But it definitely creates some very interesting juxtaposition uh, points for us to kind of talk at and look at the, like kind of the different things happening there. And then the back half of the 9 weeks, we are going to move into what I like to call a curated collection. And a curated collection is where you study multiple works of the same writer. For the IB sake, it requires us to study at least three works of the same writer. In this case, and it's going to be a surprise, so I don't want to ruin it for you. But in this case, it's probably going to be closer to 5 or 6 works of the same writer, and then maybe some ancillary works around the edges as well. I'm kind of excited for what that all looks like. Oh, I just realized you can't even read my slide because I'm in the way. Hold on, let me see if I can move myself here. There we go. Um, I don't want to ruin the surprise too much about what it's going to be, but it'll be a nice, refreshing departure from kind of what the course has been for us so far, and kind of a return, if you will, to the first week or two of the course, getting into smaller works, but really kind of digging in depth into those smaller works, sentence by sentence, word by word, kind of analysis. Um, yeah, and then that'll be it for the third 9 weeks, and then it'll be on to the fourth 9 weeks, and I'm not sure what that looks like yet. I'm really hoping that we'll be back in a school building by the fourth 9 weeks, and we can have face-to-face class, and then things will be very different. But who knows? I mean, there's just no way to know what's happening in the world at as a whole right now. Just there's no way to know about what's happening with anything. Um, as always, if you have any questions, if you need me for anything, please let me know. I'm always happy to help. Um, I'm a pretty understanding guy. I'm happy to work with you. It's a very small class, so it's very easy to be very flexible because there's not a lot of you to have to. There's not a lot of burden to have to help to have to heft here. Um, so yeah, so like I said, if you need anything, let me know. I'll be happy to help you out. I'll be happy to work with you. And have a good one. Be safe. Be happy.